one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Remembering the King legacy.
And the new Milwaukee County Executive.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Milton Dockery.
And I'm Faithe. We're glad you could join us. This week we'll chat with Milwaukee County Executive Lee Holloway and conclude our profile of former State Representative Annette Williams.
And we'll be joined by poet and activist Muhibb Dyer to discuss Flood the Hood with Destruction of Dreams, the 2011 edition of the Children Are Crying calendar.
But first, as we prepare to celebrate the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, we wanted to share this with you.
So let's be honest. It's impossible to like everyone in the room. Maybe one person rubs you the wrong way. Maybe another is just as opinionated as you are, but has an entirely different opinion. No matter the reason, not everyone in the room will like you either. But there is something we have to understand in this day and age. Even though we don't have to like everyone, we have to learn to respect and cooperate with everyone. But why? Because we now live in a shrinking world. The shrinking world theory states that because of technology and the ease of travel and communication, we no longer have geographic barriers between nations to keep us from trading and interacting. And because of this theory, every nation in the world is now interdependent. We rely on one another for economical, political, and social help. We are so interwoven now that it's impossible to survive without another country's commerce or help. But working together is not the only reason we are considered a neighborhood. Religion is the second. Many people believe that it is religion that separates us. But we must realize that it in fact unites us, and that it is the smaller details of each faith that makes them unique. There is similar dogma between the majorities of the faiths in the world. Honor thy father and thy mother, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. These are the 5th, 6th, and 8th commandments from the world's most popular religion, with approximately 2.1 billion followers. And although these quotes are Christian, the same values are found in Islam, the second most popular religion, with approximately 1.5 billion followers. The same goes for Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikh, Judaism, and many other faiths around the world. Atheists also hold these morals dear, and if we believe in all these same values, doesn't that just prove how similar we really are? In Shakespeare's famous play, The Merchant of Venice, one of the primary protagonists, Shylock, says in response to the injustice he was facing as a 16th century Venice Jew, "Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, senses, affections, dimensions, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die?" Why can't we say the same for all walks of people? We are so alike, yet so different, a brotherhood of diversity. We define ourselves by what makes us unique, but we often fail to realize that we are still all equals. If not under the eyes of a god, then as nothing more than humans with ambitions and emotions and loved ones. So many have fought to bring this into the light. Gandhi, Mandela, and our very own Martin Luther King Jr. Should we not honor their lives' work? I don't believe we have much of a choice but to do so. If we are in an interdependent world of distinct nations, then we no longer have a choice but to cooperate as a community, as a neighborhood, and as a brotherhood. Thank you.
That is one of the winning speeches you will hear at the 27th Annual Martin Luther King Holiday Celebration that will take place on January 16th at the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts between 1 and 4 p.m. Ishtar Njaaga is a 10th grader at the Milwaukee High School of the Arts and a winner of the 2010 MLK Speechwriting Contest. Welcome, Ishtar.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You wrote the winning essay with the theme, "The World, a Neighborhood, a Brotherhood." Were you familiar with Dr. King's work?
I was. In middle school, we did a lot of research and a lot of work on the civil rights movement. We watched a lot of videos, did art projects and everything, and I was actually very interested in it. And my mother, I know, is also very much the same.
How long did it take you to write this essay?
Not very long, because it's on a topic that I'm actually very fond of and very passionate about, so I think it just kind of came out of me.
So you took what you learned and recalled from middle school and put it into this essay, and it didn't take you long. You seem to have a passion for writing and giving speeches. What is it that you want to do with your career?
Actually, I'd like to go into medicine.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, help us understand medicine and speech writing and just this awesome talent that you have.
Thank you. I feel that doing speeches and writing and getting my voice out there is a great way to gain confidence, and I think to be in the medical field you have to have a lot of confidence. You have to be very self-assured in what you're doing. So.
Well, that's really wonderful. How long have you been writing?
Writing speeches only since middle school, but writing fictional stories I've been writing since about 3rd grade.
That's right. That's wonderful. And you plan on going to college to be a medical student, to get into the medical field, speech writing. You're fabulous. You're a student at the High School of the Arts. Is there some parting words you want to share with other young people that have an interest in writing?
When you're writing, make sure that you feel you've done your absolute best. Read over it 100 times until you know this is exactly what you want to say.
And I think you did just that.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your writing with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. The 27th Annual Martin Luther King Holiday Celebration on January 16th at the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts between 1 and 4 p.m.
As the Wisconsin legislature meets in special session, for the first time in 30 years, Annette Williams is not there because she retired. This week, we conclude our 2-part profile of Miss Williams. Liddy Collins has more.
I can say that I really have enjoyed these 30 years in the legislature. I don't have any regrets. As doors were open for me, I just made sure that I kept the door open so that other folks could follow me too. And I really, really believe in that whole theme of, you know, as you rise, you lift. You make sure you bring somebody along with you. And as the doors are open for me, I want to make sure that I bring somebody else. I don't, you know, like they say, you don't want to be the only one. And after a few years, if you're still the only one, then you haven't done your job.
Former state representative Annette Williams worked on redistricting, which brought about more minority representation of Milwaukee and Madison. This, along with working on school desegregation and the parental school choice program, helped her to make a positive and beneficial impact for people of color. Another powerful venue she used to get information out to the public was the radio.
So I love people that do cook.
For about 6 years, Polly Williams and her 3 lady friends brought issues to the airwaves via The Breakfast Club on WMCS 1290 radio.
And we're still together, you know, we have to keep finding ways for us to still get together since we're not getting together every Tuesday morning.
When you talk about politics, it is the politics that help to set the tone for what's going to happen. Polly always brought the latest information, and as everybody who ever listened, she shot straight from the hip. She never held back on what she felt was the right thing to do. And so she always helped to interpret things that we would hear in terms of the political information that was being put out there and giving guidance to the community in terms of how should we respond to things. What are things that are urgent? What's the priorities?
In most instances, most legislation or policy decisions don't always reach us right away. It's more like a trickle down that after other people have gotten the benefits, then if there's anything left, you know, maybe we can get it. So, but I like to kind of put us on the front burner. I put us out there. The people in most needs, I think that's where the solutions to problems ought to begin with those people with the greatest need, and the people with some of the greatest needs are those people who are on the low end of the totem pole. So sometimes I come across as they say, the in-house racist. I'm not a racist, I'm just a realist.
We would always say it wasn't that you were racist, but your comment would always be you were pro-black.
Yeah.
I mean, even down to just picking a restaurant. And that's how Tuesday's Breakfast Club became Tuesday's Breakfast Club, because we started eating out. The ladies, my elders were eating out first. They invited me to join them, and so we were always going to restaurants. Now, Polly always had to go to a black restaurant. Sometimes we just wanted to vary our repertoire of eating experiences, but Polly would always black first.
Yeah, so, I know. That's why, and don't even ask me, because they already know I'm going to say black. So they go around to everybody else first and get some of these other restaurants. But when it comes to me, it's got to be a black restaurant.
Yes, even to the degree that it may not be good for us. And you know, and Justine was always telling us what foods were healthy and what foods weren't healthy.
You don't mean to sound that we always sounded like we were holding hands, but there were times when we disagreed. Polly was always kind of like, for whatever happened, it was supposed to be one way, and that was related to how it affect blacks. And I was like, once she wasn't in favor of seatbelts, and because she felt that there would be people in the black community that wouldn't be wearing them, particularly men, and that was putting them again in a position of being running into the law, and the point where we either want them alive or dead. And so we really had to discuss. It took a little while to convince her that seatbelts wouldn't hurt.
People will surely miss the fearless outspokenness of former state representative Annette Polly Williams. She was willing to take a stand and fight for what she believed. She said she will continue to be the advocate she promised she would be.
Never did change from what I promised, you know. So, yeah, we were able to accomplish a lot of things, even though, you know, I didn't always get the leadership position here in the Capitol. But it was more important for me to have the leadership in my district and in the city of Milwaukee, where it counted the most. I get my chance to stand up here in the speaker's podium, and you had a big stick, and you could call and say, "This is State Representative Polly Williams calling," and Mrs. A called me about a problem, and everybody will try to help you. So I'm gonna find out what it's like to call and say, "Hey, this is Polly Williams, and I'm calling about Mrs. A."
As Annette Polly Williams took her last stroll around the Capitol, she wanted people to remember her as a fighter and someone who cared about making a difference and was sincere.
If I had to do it over again, I would still do it, even with the ups and downs. And you know, it hasn't been perfect, but it's been 30 years of my life that I can put a pin in and say, job well done. Goodbye.
Living just enough for the city.
Flood the Hood with Destruction or Dreams is the 2011 The Children Are Crying calendar. The calendar is a mix of poetry and pictures that speak to two different realities for Milwaukee's urban youth. Muhibb Dyer is one of the creators of the calendar. Welcome, Muhibb.
How are you doing, Ms. Faithe?
I'm good.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Let's remind the audience the purpose of the calendar.
Well, the calendar is in its 9th year, as we're blessed by the Creator, to put something good in the community. That's the overall underlying concept. We called the calendar The Children Are Crying so long ago because we recognize that the first initial response to a child when they're born into the world is to cry, and they cry because they don't have the ability to articulate what their needs are. And in the same sense, we have children in this world who are teenagers who don't have the ability to say, I'm sad because my mother is not in my life, or I'm sad because my father is not in my life, or I've been abused. So they react and they respond in a negative way. So essentially what we try to do with the calendar is capture the essence of the realities of inner city life in pictures and in poetry, and not just all the negative, but also give our people something inspiring to look up to too.
Pictures and poetry. Do you participate?
Yes, I do.
Pictures and poetry?
Well, I actually had the pictures in my head. So, you know, Peter Hernandez is our photographer, and he donates his work. We're blessed to have somebody to be able to do that, and he just brings it to life. And my sister Deidre Rochelle is the graphic designer. And
the poetry, how are you inspired?
Well, the poets on this year's calendar is me, of course, and Kwabena Antone Nixon. And overall, we're just inspired by life in general, by what we see, the positive and the negative. And we're inspired by the idea of moving our people from a place that society says they're in the depths of deprivation, to a place where we can be strong and we can realize the dream that America is supposedly supposed to mean for us.
Speaking of poetry, let's hear a piece.
This poem is about strong black women, and oftentimes in the media we see pictures of women degrading themselves. I thought it'd be good to capture the essence of strong women and children. Men calling me names can't stop me. It ain't what you call me, it's what I answer to. Men who abuse me can't stop me. You can bruise my body, but my spirit is unbreakable. The men that cheated on me can't stop me. They traded treasure for trash, so it's their loss, not mine. My own bad decisions and mistakes can't stop me. In each of them, I learn what not to do, which is more valuable than knowing what to do. Life's trials and tribulations can't stop me. What didn't kill me made me stronger. Self-doubt and low self-esteem can't stop me. I know that I am a daughter of God, and I deserve everything He has to offer to me. Not even I myself will ever stop me, for I know the greatest key to success is moving myself out the way. I am a determined black woman from a long line of mothers and great-grandmothers who always made something out of nothing. Strength is my heritage, it is my legacy, and I intend to hold up this tradition of overcoming all obstacles with everything that I am.
How do we get a copy of The Children Are Crying?
Well, you can call me at 414-803-0374. That's 414-803-0374. Or you can contact us on the web and purchase one at freewebstore.org/The Children Are Crying.
Thank you very much, Muhibb, for joining me.
Thank you.
In the 50 years that Milwaukee County has been led by an executive, Mr. Holloway becomes the first of African American descent.
And Milwaukee County Executive Holloway joins us now on Black Nouveau. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Holloway, on December the 28th, you became the county executive for 30 days. Why not wait until the April election, sir?
Well, it's policy. It's state policy that during a time when the county executive leaves, that the chairman of the board takes over for 30 days.
Okay. Now, what happens after that 30 days?
After that 30 days, I will either appoint myself or appoint some other body.
Well, what are your plans?
I have not made up my mind yet.
All righty. Now, do you plan on running for this position permanently?
Yes, I do plan on running for county exec.
Mr. Holloway, one of the things that's very interesting is many people don't realize the difference between county services and city services. Mm-hmm. What services does Milwaukee County government provide as opposed to the city?
Well, basically what we provide is human services. We provide mental health services. We provide welfare services, sheriff services, child support services, courts, criminal justice area, house correction area, juvenile services, juvenile correction services, basically all humanistic services that we provide.
Any additional services other than human services?
We also provide for the zoo, recreation, the dorms, the parks.
When you say the domes or dorms?
Dorms.
Okay.
And the parks. We provide recreation all the way around.
Okay.
You know, the ice skating ring by the city hall, all of those things we do. We are a giant human services component.
All right. What is the state of the county budget at this time?
It's in fairly decent shape. I just got a report from the director, and it looks like we should be coming out at the end of this year somewhat in the black.
Could you be a little bit more specific?
Well, that basically from a accounting perspective, we'll be coming out in the black, which means that we'll be coming out with no deficits.
Okay. With the state government tightening its belt, what impact will this have on the county?
Initially, it won't have a lot. It'll start having a lot probably in year 2012, and then we'll probably have to have concerns reference to shared revenue, a number of other things that we'll have to be concerned about, and we'll have to make decisions as we go.
Okay, considering that you're in the black now, do you think that this will affect you being in the black? You said 2012.
Well, what I mean that we're in the black, if the union members work with us, we'll come out in the black.
Could you be a little bit more specific? What unions?
Well, we have some union members who are disgruntled right now, not happy with their contracts. I'm trying to work with them to see whether we can make some arrangements to make them more happy so we can meet each other in the middle of the road.
Okay. So with the tightening of this belt, that could have a tremendous impact on your ability to negotiate.
Well, I think it, based on what's been happening all over the country, here in the state of Wisconsin, union members have been having a real tough time. Okay. And the county's been having a tough time. So I'm hoping with all of us having a tough time that we can get together and work things out.
Back to the point, considering the state is tightening its belt, you point to the year 2012. What services are most likely to be at the hardest around 2012?
Well, when I talked to the governor, he indicated that he was going to maybe cut certain areas of revenue sharing and that kind of stuff, and also give us the flexibility in terms of making a decision on the mandates. We got a lot of mandates from the state, but we don't get funding for the mandates. So what he's saying, he will allow us to make decisions on the mandates that we provide, giving us opportunity whether we want to do them or not.
Are you expecting a decrease in revenue sharing?
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, yes, I'm expecting quite a bit of decrease.
What changes would a community see in services overall if shared revenue is decreased?
Well, it depends on how deep the cuts will be. If it's a minimum amount of cuts, we'll be tightening our belt. If it's a drastic cut, it can be devastating. So we'll see. I don't know.
So he didn't give you a general idea during that conversation?
No, I don't really think he really knows right now. Okay. He's working at the budget, looking at the budget as well as I'll be looking at the budget.
Mr. Holloway, what do you hope to accomplish in your short tenure as county exec? And I realize you're running in April.
Well, as you know, I don't really expect it to be a short tenure. I want it to be a long
Talking
tenure.
Specifically about the 30-day period.
Well, the 30-day period, I have a lot of objectives. One of the things I want to do is get jobs going.
How will you do that?
I created for our buyer source, I'm going to have 15% to be set aside for small businesses and let small businesses be able to buy products from us. One of the reasons I want to do that is because small businesses are always active. If you create an economic stimulus for them, they will hire additional staff to do the work. Big businesses tend to wait until a trend takes place, and then when a trend takes place, then they say, okay, we'll hire 80 employees. where you just stimulate a small business. They'll hire 1 or 2 employees, just like the pop of a whip.
So 15% set aside for small businesses.
15%, which is about 15 million.
Okay. Any set aside for minority businesses specifically?
Well, that will be part of the set aside. The $15 million will include minority business as well.
Okay. Mr. Holloway, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
Remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night.